It's hard to imagine that you live near a toxic waste dump, let alone that it's right in your backyard, and that your kids are playing in it. Well, for the residents of Picher, Oklahoma, they didn't have to imagine it. It was reality. In 1913, vast amounts of lead and zinc were found right near the border of Oklahoma. This quickly attracted the attention of the Eagle Picher Lead Company. Picher was located right in the middle of what we now call the Tri-State Lead District, and was a center of mining lead. The land at the time was owned by the Quapaw tribe, which had been living there for many years. The government took that land away from them and gave it to the Eagle Picher Lead Company in 1918, who soon began to build infrastructure. Hundreds of homes went up, and people were flooding into the new town, seeking jobs in the mines. In 1926, the small mining town had amassed over 42,000 residents and was producing more than 10 million pounds of ore every day. One study even suggests that over half the bullets fired in World War I were from the resources extracted from Picher, Oklahoma. To get this high-quality lead, miners would go into the massive mines and drill the rocks until they turned into a fine powder. They would then bring that up to the massive flotation ponds with chemicals in it that would bring the lead and zinc to the top and put the waste on the bottom. They would take this waste called chat and put them into immense piles. The piles of chat are all over Picher, and some are more than 300 feet tall. They are so massive you can even see them from satellites. Kids and families would go all over these chat piles. Kids would go down sledding, and families would have picnics on them. Many people took this fine powder and filled their children's sandwich boxes with them, used it as a filler in roads, playgrounds, and mixed it into concrete. It was everywhere. Whenever it rained in Picher, the mines would flood. As a result, the water would react with the materials in the mine, turning the water acidic. This water seeped into the ground and went into the river. All of the wildlife in the rivers died, but nobody seemed to notice. Tar Creek, one of the polluted rivers, was still being used for drinking water and was still being played in. Families would go swimming in Tar Creek and think they were getting sunburn, but they were getting chemical burns from the highly acidic water that they were swimming in. During the peak of mining in Picher, it is estimated that 13 tons of heavy metal went through Tar Creek every day, and they didn't even know it, or that it was deadly. All throughout Picher's history, teachers noticed that their students were not performing very well in school. In fact, they had the lowest test scores in the whole country, and nobody knew why the test scores were so bad until 1990, when it was found that over 63% of students had lead poisoning. People looked at the large mountains of toxic chat, and they were right. The chat piles contained unusable but still deadly lead in it. The fine chat would blow all over the town, causing people to breathe it in, and get in their food, to get everywhere. Not only were they getting lead poisoning from the chaff piles, but from the water, as it contained high amounts of lead and zinc in it. All this lead accumulates in the brain and permanently damages neurons, which can result in learning disabilities. However, the problems for the residents of Picher continued to get worse. Soon, the mines began collapsing, swallowing houses, people, and cars with it. Massive parts of the town were now gone, and there was nothing that they could do about it. When it rained, people would swim the sink pools, giving them an even higher dosage of lead. Lead poisoning did not just affect people's mental health, but their physical health as well. A study by the United States Environmental Protection Agency found that residents of Picher were 38% more likely to get disease than the average person, and 2,000 times more likely to get chronic lung disease. After the news about this arrived to the EPA, they quickly started doing tests in Picher in 2000. They declared Picher as uninhabitable to anyone or anything, and they started buying people out with $50 per square foot, later declaring it a Superfund site. They spent $140 million putting in new topsoil to attempt to make Picher cleaner, but it didn't work. So far, the government has spent over $130 million cleaning up Picher, and plans to spend an additional $120 million in the next 30 years to clean it. However, In 2008, tragedy struck Picher once again.
Oh my gosh. There's a tornado right there. Right there. You look at that. And then you get in that bathroom.
A tornado came and wiped out what was left of Picher, flattening houses and claiming 7 lives. Out of all the homes that were destroyed, none were rebuilt. Today, Picher is a ghost town, but the town continues to affect us today. Tar Creek is still toxic and red from the arsenic. The creek runs into Grand Lakes, which is a water reservoir for thousands of families. They are all drinking and swimming in polluted water, and they don't even know. When you walk through Picher now, you see the homes flattened by a tornado or consumed by sinkholes. You see thousands of birds dead on the ground who died midair while flying due to the toxic wasteland that used to be a home for thousands of people. There are dead animals all over the place, and the chat piles still stand high. In 2014, the United States returned Picher, Oklahoma back to their original owners, the Quapaw tribe. The Quapaw tribe is now working on reclaiming their land, getting rid of the massive chat piles, and burying it back in the ground where it belongs. So far, they have removed 2 million pounds of chat, but they still have a long way to go. The Quapaw hope to clean up their land and begin farming once all the toxic particles are gone. They also want to clean up the river, maybe one day reintroduce fish and make Grand Lake safer for everyone. Picher, Oklahoma is a modern-day ghost town, almost completely abandoned. It went from a booming town to a ghost town in 80 years. All the excessive mining caused Picher to become so polluted that it is now uninhabitable by humans due to the toxic rivers and the mountains of chat piles. The mines that ran underneath Picher collapsed, taking much of the town down with it, and anyone who still wanted to go there got hit by a tornado, killing 7 people. Everyone should know the story of Picher, because that town will never be the same again. All the lives lost and destroyed, and many people that didn't have a good education. This should never have happened. They should have known better that the chat piles would be toxic, but because they didn't, they all had to pay for it.